Thank you, audience, for joining us for another episode of Elisha Space. It's always a pleasure to have you with us here today. Today, we have Todd Sarner with us again from Transformative Parenting. In part one, we were talking about attachment and explaining what attachment parenting can look like and defining it for you. And now we're going to expound on this part two on how to parent better so that we're raising our children to be more secure in themselves, and so that they'll have more healthy and wholesome relationships with others, and that they can, in their next generation, parent their children in a better way too. That's what it's all about, a better world. So
Hi there, friends. Elisha here. You and I, we're on this winding road of life together, and I'd like to share a little piece of my soul with you, something to bring us closer on this shared journey of growth and self-discovery. The Mental Health Handbook is a piece of that shared journey, and it's not just a collection of my thoughts, it's a sanctuary where we can learn resilience and arm ourselves with self-care tools for those days that just feel too heavy. Consider it a conversation between friends, one that I hope brings you comfort and strength. And for those times when we seek quiet reflection, I've crafted the Mindfulness Coloring Book for Adults. Picture us side by side, lost in the simple joy of coloring, allowing the stillness and the words of peace and forgiveness to wrap around us like warm embrace. I want these books to be part of your journey, to walk with you and guide you towards a fuller, more peaceful heart. It's a path we travel together, one filled with understanding, care, and the gentle reminder that you're not alone. Both the Mental Health Handbook and Mindfulness Coloring Book for Adults are waiting for you on Amazon and at the Restoring You Christian Counseling website. These spaces are more than just stories. They're gateways to the experiences we can share and grow from. Let's take this step to nurture our mental and spiritual health together. Find the books, and let's start unfolding the beauty and strength that lies within us, page by page, color by color. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey. Here's to the discoveries we'll make and the peace we'll find together.
Todd, I want to thank you for joining us today.
I'm glad to be back. I had such a great time the first time. It felt like we could have gone on for a lot longer. So it feels like a reunion with an old friend, and I'm really happy to be here again. Thank you.
Me too. Excited about it. Well, expounding a little bit more about what we had talked about. So we're not going to do like a big review of what we talked about in part one. I encourage you, part one and part two are right beside each other. You'll find that right beside each other, Transformative Parenting 1 and then part 2 with Todd. So I suggest you listen to part 1 and then you can listen to part 2. Or if you want to just listen to the tips, you can listen to the tips and then listen to what the definitions and all those things that we were talking about before. So we're just going to kind of jump right into it as far as parenting approaches. If I have a more avoidant style or anxiety type of anxious attachment, and I know there's different things that can go with that, right? What is the best way? What are some approaches that I can take? And I understand from the first episode that we talked about the best gift you can give to your children, and I believe that wholeheartedly, man, is working on you becoming a better version of yourself so that you can present yourselves to your children as being a better version for yourself. But I'm specifically thinking, Todd, well, you can guide however you want to, but a lot of times if someone has some sort of a trauma, right? Or if there's been a loss in the family, sometimes it takes a little bit longer to become a better version of yourself because you may reach a stuck point, right?
Yeah.
So what are some approaches that someone could take if there's a trauma involved or some sort of a stuck point that they come into while they're trying to be a better version of themselves? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, such a big area to explore, potentially. Like you said, in the first episode we did together, that one of my main philosophies is to love parents, to be non-judgmental towards parents. I'm a parent myself. I'm a human too. I know all of us are carrying around some baggage, some programming. So I don't come from a place of judging when it comes to this. If you're harming your child and you're harming your child, I will say, hey, stop. Look, that, hurt people. I understand that, but we really need to get a hold of that. So I would judge the action, not the person. But maybe just to go deeper into the ideas is if we look at most spiritual practices, we look at most psychological norms for what's healthy, there's a through line, and that is, as much as it can sound like a cliche or it can sound like something that people just say on a bumper sticker, it's really important that if I'm dealing with you, Elisha, you and I have a friendship, you and I are in a family together, you and I, anything, what I'm striving to do is be in the present moment and deal with you for you and deal with this moment for this moment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that sounds like a lofty thing. Sometimes it can sound like an overly simple thing, but that's just, I think, one of the keys to life is that when I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm not speaking to you like you're someone else because you look like someone else I know, or this moment feels to me like something that happened to me when I was little. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And anything I can do to be in the present moment and to realize, for instance, in our context here, talking about parent-child relationships, whatever I learned to do growing up, if I learned to be a little avoidant because I thought feelings hurt and I didn't know how to tolerate them, so I learned to kind of act like I don't care, be a little standoffish. Men are kind of taught to do this a little bit more, not only, but if I realize that that's what I learned to do, I need to look at my child and go, okay, that's not appropriate here. I'm a big person now. I know new things. I've learned things. I have the capacity to change and grow. I need to be present for my child. If I learned to be anxious, to try to deal with things when I was little, I need to realize when I'm being anxious. I need to learn usually body-based things. As much as I went through grad school and I would hear people talking about somatic therapy or body-based things, and I'm like, I think it's about the head and the heart, and I don't know about this stuff. I mean, I wasn't dismissive, but I just didn't pursue it as much, you know? But in the 20 something years since I graduated, I've been like, oh, I get it. We are one whole being. Our brain is just one part. Our heart is a part, but our whole body is a part of our experience. And we are designed to use our whole body. And I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but these are all the things I think about. A lot of times the solution, Elisha, is not trying to think more and not come up with a more complicated strategy, because when you're in difficult feelings, your brain probably isn't telling you accurate information. So a lot of times, taking a deep breath into your belly, feeling your feet on the ground, feeling your butt on the chair if you're sitting down, and just kind of getting into your body and feeling your body, holding your hands. We learn things in grad school. I don't know if you learned any of these things, but if you're feeling low energy, there's little energy centers in your hands that you can pinch that can kind of help you be a little bit more alert.
Right.
I find myself moving my feet on the ground. But these are all things that can help slow you down, can kind of help bring you into the moment. And to me, some of the simplest and most effective strategies for dealing with our own stuff when we're parenting is anything that can slow me down, anything that can bring me back into my body, anything that can get me to center and breathe, because then I can make better choices. One of the biggest things that I think gets to me as a person is the thought that I am acting automatically rather than with free will. You know what I mean? And
What you're
if,
referring
yeah,
to, what I'm hearing you refer to, are mindfulness practices, being
yeah,
intentionally present in the moment.
yeah. And
I
if
think
we
that's
look at
important too.
scripture, if we look at most spiritual traditions, we look at the Bible, we look at the Torah, we look at all these different things, you can find mindfulness guidance in all of these things. But in psychology, more and more these days, as you know, you can find top leading psychiatrists like Dr. Daniel Siegel talking about how important it is to be mindful and to have a practice. So, whatever you call it, whatever your tradition calls it, whatever resonates with you, because there's lots of different practices. But yeah, being mindful, being in the moment, having strategies that help you to fill your cup and to feel regenerated, like by taking a nap, by doing a meditation, by doing a breathing exercise. These are all things that are going to be more effective than just getting a 1, 2, 3 set of advice steps from a parenting expert. Now, I think my own coaching practice, my own therapy practice, I'm trying to combine all these things, right? I'm saying, hey, let's understand the big picture. Let's be educated as much as we can, because when we're not educated about what's going on with our child's development, we're going to fill those gaps with a lot of bad information, and we're going to be looking to people that are not really great guides sometimes to fill the gap. If we're not grounded, if we're not breathing, we're not going to be able to execute on doing things. But also, so get the education, work on your kind of filling your cup, and then practice. That's what you can do. Instead of getting caught in loops about I'm not good enough, I'm afraid of this, feel that for a minute, like I said before, but then do something. Do something to practice doing it differently. If you're blowing up at your kid every morning before school because they won't put their shoes on, because they're actually having separation anxiety and they just don't want to be away from you, and their whole body is telling them, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, so they're not putting on their jacket. That if you can just go, okay, every morning I lose my mind when it comes to that, what can I do? Maybe I can take 5 minutes before I get out of bed just to kind of breathe into my belly in a deep way and let it out slowly. Maybe I can get up 10 minutes before my child, which made a big difference in my household, I know. I had this thing, Elisha, where I just did not want to get up before 6 a.m. Something about 5:55 felt like 5 hours more than 6 o'clock to me. And my kid would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning on the dot when he was like 4 or 5 years old. I found that when I got up 5 minutes early and just was a little bit more prepared, I could meet him, I could greet him, I could be, hey, good morning. And then he was happier. But then sometimes I was making too much breakfast. I was going too much. I was like making bacon, I'm making eggs, I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm just going to pop some Whole Foods waffles in there sometimes, maybe crack an egg. And maybe I don't feel like a super dad this morning for making him a 5-course, but I actually have more time now and the morning would go slower. All these little things, those are little things you can practice. So I know I'm giving really long answers this morning, but you're asking big questions that are really important to parents.
What I heard you say is the importance of being present. And what I was thinking about, how, like when you were talking about your 4-year-old, right? The twins are grown, thank God. But one was a night person and one was a morning person. It's still true
Mm.
to this day. I didn't sleep for 4 years.
Oh man.
I slept, but not, I slept in spurts for like 4 years, you know? And what you're saying is so important because although that was a hard time, I'm never going to get that time back. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like when you have your children, like you don't get do-overs, you know what I'm saying? It's a moment by moment thing. And so being present is so important because sometimes we can be so into ourselves that we miss out on the innocence of their childhood, you
Yeah.
know? And they don't care, like they don't really care if you take an Eggo and put it in the toaster. It's
Yeah.
still breakfast. It still tastes good to them, you know? So
Yeah.
I agree with you the importance of doing that, especially if you're going through, you know, some sort of a trauma, or if you reach the stuck point and you're doing the work, you know, and a lot of times, as you know, a lot of times your therapist, your psychologist, your counselor, whoever you go to, will work with you on your coping skills first to
Hmm.
support you as you start doing some of the deeper work. That's
Yeah.
usually the roadmap. So,
Yeah.
you know, doing the things like going outside and letting your feet touch the grass just to remind yourself that you are here and that you matter, you know,
Yeah.
I think is so important. So I think that's extremely important, especially if you're parenting, because the parenting role is extremely tough, especially when you're going through some things, you know, like if you're feeling like you can't wake up in the morning, like, or you don't want to going through some sort of a thing. And I know what it can feel like sometimes, especially as our children go through transitions when it comes to attachment parenting.
Hmm.
It can be kind of uncomfortable, especially if it's in an anxiety type of attachment, to
Hmm.
even feel like, oh no, they're not going to need me as much and things of that nature. So, what would you suggest to parents when their children are going through one phase to another, as far as that's concerned, as well, to help them stay grounded as well, in order to help them become more secure individuals?
So a child is going through like a transition stage, and
Let's say they're going from middle school to high school,
right. You know,
or they're not needing their parents as much. They don't want to talk, they don't want to
or
walk
they're
with them to the bus stop anymore.
or they're acting like they don't need their parents as much. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I'll tell you, Elisha, that's still one of the toughest things ever in my life. I don't know, a little bit of knowing and a little tongue in cheek. But the first day my son didn't want me to hold his hand walking up to school.
Hmm.
Oh boy, that was soul crushing. I hated that so much. And I understood, right? Like, I teach this stuff. I tell people, hey, they still need you. They're just pretending they don't, or they're experimenting with individuation and all this stuff. But yeah, still, it hurts the heart. You know, what? That was one of my favorite things in life, and you don't want to do that. There's so much. Again, you ask kind of deep questions. I think having a practice where you consider, like the Buddhists talk about a lot about different kind of attachment, you know, and it gets confusing because I'll talk about attachment, and attachment, like we covered in the first episode, is the instinct that all kids are born with, that we're all born with, to keep close to those that we hold most dear in our heads and in our hearts. And that's a good attachment. And when we're doing it right and when we cultivate it and it's working, we can be attached to people and not see them all the time, right? Like as adults, even. Like my best friends both live in Oregon, you know, and I live in California. I don't see them all the time, but I still can feel attached, right? It's not dependent on seeing them all the time. But the Buddhists, I really like Buddhist psychology, and they use a lot of great terms to explain things. And but one of the things they talk about is if we get attached too much to a particular concept, it causes us suffering, right?
That's a
So
good
if
point.
I'm going around thinking that my 4-year-old has to stay 4 years old and he can't ever change his mind and not want to hold my hand walking up to school, at first, we've touched on a couple times, to feel some sadness about that is okay. Of course, those are feelings. No
Hmm.
counselor, no therapist is going to tell you not to have your feelings, okay? But at first, it's sadness, you feel it, But if you let yourself feel it, you cry, you accept it, and then you're open to something new happening and something awesome being there at the next stage, right? So, kind of practicing that can be a deep, deep spiritual and psychological practice of be in the moment, like we've been talking about, but then when the moment changes, feel sad, mourn that part is over, that phase is over. But then if you mourn and you really feel it and you get it out, you'll feel better and you'll be open to something new. And that's just how human beings work. And so practicing non-attachment in that way doesn't mean you're not attached to your child. It just means that you're not attached to them needing to be 4 years old. And as counselors, we know one of the kind of more negative things we can do as parents is to kind of psychologically or emotionally insist that our child stays a certain way, or that they have to be in a certain role for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the main ones is if we kind of let our kids parent us, which happens a lot, right? Mom is having a really hard time and she's very needy and she kind of leans on child for emotional support in a way she was, maybe is only appropriate for a friend or a counselor or a preacher or something, And then that child learns to be in that role. And then that child grows up to be a therapist. Just kidding. But that child doesn't take care of themselves necessarily because they are used to taking care of mom or taking care of dad, right?
Right.
And so it's really, really important that we kind of learn to embrace the moment, but then accept when things change. And other than that, Elisha, maybe we'll go more into it. Maybe it's not what you were talking about, but we touched on in the first episode, the more that you can build out a culture in your home,
right,
of rituals and predictability and structure, all of these things help you in so many ways. It's unbelievable. And we live in a culture in America where I think people came from all sorts of different places in the world and so many different cultures that had so many beautiful rituals. I mean, obviously they were also escaping oppression in a lot of cases, and my family on my dad's side came from Russia where they were indentured servants, and then some of them went to Germany, and that wasn't a good time to go to Germany because they were Jewish, on my dad's side. There's a lot of pain in there that people will flee from oppressive governments and oppressive things in cultures that didn't accept your religion or your sexual orientation or whatever, right?
right.
But I think we also kind of threw the metaphorical baby out with the bathwater sometimes, and we don't really have as much knowing culture and structure sometimes that sometimes the church provided and communities provided. People have kind of rejected those things on the whole sometimes. And what we really lose in that is that culture and structure, when done right, and rituals and knowing when done correctly, help us with our connection with our children, take the pressure off of us, provide us with community, provide us with support, and provide us with stability, going back to your original question, that sustains us through those times of transition. Does that all kind of make sense as an answer?
It does. It does. Now, you use the word rituals. There may be some people that don't understand what that could look like. Could you give some examples of what rituals
Gosh,
can
it
look
can
like?
be a morning ritual that we always do, from little songs we sing together on the couch before we do anything else, to Dr. Neufeld. I know when I was a student of his, he talked about, he had 5 kids, right? Blended family. He had, I think, 2 from a previous marriage. His wife had 1 from a previous marriage, and then they had 2 boys together. And when the boys were teenagers, they were the only ones left in the house. and things were crazy sometimes. His wife was a teacher, a school teacher. He was a psychologist who was teaching at college and also traveling. And they found the mornings were really hectic sometimes, even though they knew a lot more than the average person about parenting and child relations, being a teacher and a developmental psychologist. But they found that just sitting the kids down and having a morning check-in where they sat in these 2 chairs off the kitchen, and the parents sat across from them and said, "Hey, what's up? What's happening today? What are we doing? You going to soccer? Okay, what do you need? All right. Did you get your homework? All right. How you feeling?" And they just took 5 minutes to get connected. So it can be things like that, especially at transition times. That before school, we might have a little ritual that we just do every day. After school, we have a little ritual that we do every day. We have a little coming back together thing where we have a hug and we have a check-in. Now, that not only helps you transition, but that helps the child all day sometimes. And I know this sounds magical, but when the child has these touch points of we do this, then we do that, and then at night we do this, they look forward to those things instead of being anxious about what's going on right now, because they're looking forward to the rituals. It could be Taco Tuesday, right? It can be the meal time. Dr. Neufeld, again, I'll use another one of his examples just because I'm riffing here. But his family went to the south of France for a year on sabbatical. He took a sabbatical from teaching at the college. And they, for some reason, just decided, where can we go where there's a really intact culture, where they do things kind of old school, that's safe for the family, and that we can have access to medical care and we can travel, whatever. And they decided on Roigna in the south of France. But when they got home and they had a little get together and talked about the time there, they went around the room with the 5 kids and the parents and everybody and said, "Okay, what did you like the most?" The kids didn't say, "We liked when we went on that little ski trip." They didn't talk about how we went to that restaurant. They didn't talk about all the fun little things they did. Every single person said the family meals where we sat around for hours and just talked, and Dad would open up, Dr. Neufeld would open up a book and read from a book after the meal. Every single person said that that was their favorite part. That is a ritual, right? So those are a bunch of ideas. Look to your culture, look to your family, what you wish you had what do I wish we did when I was a kid, right? Do that. Because your instinct probably tells you, based on, again, your history, your culture, unique things about your background, and just things that you go, man, if we would have had that Sunday dinner where we all got together and we all had that and we all sat around and shared food and stories, do those things. And I'm telling you, as somebody, I think we touched on the book last time, most parents are concerned about screens and peer culture and social media and smartphones and now AI. We touched on before. Those things take the place of the things that we're talking about.
Right.
Does that make sense the way I'm saying it?
Yeah.
Is when we don't have those rituals. And now look, I'm not saying everybody go be a super parent and be a cruise director and have everything all the time, activity. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you just do have some that are there and are predictable and are good, your kids look forward to those. They want to play a board game with you at night more than they want to play a video game. I'm telling you, that is the truth. Now, if they're currently addicted to a video game, that's not what it looks like. But in general, a kid who could just sit there with mom or dad or both and my brother, and we can sit around and we can play a board game and we can laugh and we can have a good time, that is way more satisfying than doom scrolling on TikTok or something. It just is.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's just because we're not doing those things partially that kids are like, what do I do now? Okay, I'll do this. And they pick up their phone, right? When I worked in the group homes with these kids, these teenagers who were having a hard time. The number one toughest time we had with them was transition times that they didn't know what we were going to do next. That's when we'd have blowouts. That's what we call them, blowouts. Kid picking up a chair and throwing it through the window, which actually happened once. Very big window. Because they were feeling anxious. They didn't know what was coming next, and they were feeling anxiety. I'm not saying schedule every minute of your child's day. They need play. They need downtime. They need quiet time. They need all these things. What I am saying is do have predictable rituals that as much as possible, they kind of know what's coming up next. That helps connection, like I said, but it also helps transitions in the day, and it helps with transitions in life. That even if you're this way and then you got older and you this way and then you got older, we still have those traditions. We still have those rituals, and those are a common thread.
And I think that would help, like when I think about avoidant attachment, people that have those avoidant attachment types of situations happening for themselves, that the rituals would help them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as helping to build connection with their child, because they don't naturally, that's something they're working through. They're not natural huggers. They're not natural, they they don't want you in their space. And
No.
children all the time invade your space. So
For real.
yeah.
A big part of the way I do coaching is understanding, I think, that the way we grow involves taking action. But if you imagine there's in practicing, right? People throw around the word practice, like spiritual practice or meditation practice or breathing practice or parenting is a practice. And people say it so much, it kind of loses its meaning, right?
Right.
It's just a word. But that's real, okay? It's real that as human beings, things take practice. And you're not going to change a family culture in a day. You can take something that Elisha and I talked about today. You can take something we talked about last time, and absolutely, there are so many nuggets in here because, again, you're asking great questions that I know apply to so many parents. There are so many nuggets in here that could help you, but they're not going to, you could actually have a success today with a lot of things we've talked about. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it doesn't change everything if you just practice it today. It changes everything if you try and it goes well, and then the next day you try it and it doesn't go as well, and you learn from that and you try it again and you try it again. And I'm speaking to all parents, right? But also when you're talking about avoidant attachment, one of the specific things you can do is I say to my clients, imagine a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is the easiest falling off a log thing, like easiest thing for you to do. It's not a big problem. You just have to think of it, whatever. 10 is, oh, hell no.
Right.
Going up to somebody and saying, I love them in public, whatever it is for you, right? I'm not going to tell you to do that. That's going to be a shock to your system most of the time. Now, you might be inspired every once in a while and you might do it, and God bless you, great. But most of the time, if I tell you to go do a 10 out of a 10, you're not going to do it. And if you do it, it's going to be so destabilizing to your system, it's not going to be helpful. You're going to be like, I don't want to do that again, right? But what about like a 5 or a 6? What about it's a little uncomfortable for me to go give my child a hug right after school because I'm not used to that. That's not what I had. It's not a 10. It doesn't feel like, oh, hell no, but it's a little outside my comfort zone. That's the thing I think you should practice. Just try. And if you keep focusing on things, does that make enough sense, Elisha?
Absolutely.
5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
What you'll notice is if you just put some effort into practicing those 5 or 6s a little bit, they'll become 2s.
Mm-hmm.
They'll become 1s. And then you'll be like, the bar changed because that's no big deal anymore. I got that. That's fine. Right? And we touched on before, what if that's one of the main practices we're supposed to do in life? Is just
Exactly.
identify our areas that we are unconscious, identify the areas where I don't know how to do something, identify the areas where in my head and my heart, I'm like, I got to show my kid affection in this way, but I don't know how sometimes. And you identify those things and you learn to do it, not because it's not you, but because it is you. And you just got some programming that said that it's not, you know,
Yes.
that you have to protect your heart to get by. But now you have more experience. Now you're bigger. Now you can take care of you. Now you have resources. You don't have to protect your heart the same way. Now you're inspired as a parent to be better, to be bigger, to be more yourself, because that will inspire your child to do that too. And then we're breaking the cycles that are passed down.
I love this. Todd, I wish I had more time to talk to you. This is such a good conversation.
I'm sure we'll talk again sometime, because I can't imagine that this is goodbye. So I know we'll talk again sometime.
You mentioned this on the first episode. Would you like to share a little bit more about your book as well?
I wrote this book, The Calm and Connected Parent. I'm very sensitive to feeling like I'm doing a commercial, so I'm not going to do that. I'm proud of it. I like it. I took 20 years to figure out, parents have told me since I was like 2 years into this, like, you should write something. And I'm like, I don't really want to sell anything, and I'm a therapist. I just want to help people. And I don't know what I'm going to say. At the beginning, it was like, I'm just saying what Dr. Neufeld said because I'm so inspired by him and it helped me so much. And I'm newer at this. Then over the years, with thousands of parents that I've worked with and lots of experiences, and having people say that this really helped me, that really helped me, this changed my life sometimes, I went, okay, I should probably write it down. And then it just got accelerated when all the calls started pouring in. My kid's addicted to screens. My kid's addicted to video games. My kid doesn't want to talk to me. Now they want to talk to an AI chatbot. And in all these things, I just went, okay, this book isn't about that. The book is about parenting has always been hard. Raising a child to be into their full potential has always been a challenge. But now there's some things that are making it even more challenging, that are disempowering parents. And I just wanted to kind of figure out my own way of empowering parents, inspiring parents, and trying to get them to be who they want to be and who their kids need them to be. And the main way I've learned to do that is through my coaching process with people, which takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money. I don't have time for everybody with that because I'm also doing all these free things and I'm talking to my clients and all these things. But not everybody can do that. So for under $20, hey, here's something that I hope inspires you, something that I think can make a difference if you take it to heart. And all through it is, here, go try this. Go write this down. Go try this thing. And it builds and builds and builds. So thanks for giving me a chance to talk about it. I am proud about it. It comes out November 18th, 2025. And oh boy, I'm doing all sorts of effort right now to try to get the word out. I think we originally scheduled before I knew I was putting it out. But all my times in between appointments right now are talking to people about all the different parts that go into putting a book out.
Yeah, your office had reached out to me about doing an affiliate program, and I had agreed to it. So, audience.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
so
we find the people that we've had conversations with are the people we want to talk to about putting the word out. Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes out, audience, there will be, I don't know what the word will be, but it'll be something. And I'll put it out.
Yeah, what we're going to do the first time only is the book is coming out right before Christmas this year.
Right.
And there will be things for people who listen next year. You can still take part in this. But in January of 2026, I'm going to do a special book companion course that will have live elements. So there are 4 parts of the book. And I just found like, hey, practice. All the things we talked about today are important. I'm going to have a workbook that people can download for free, at least in that first month, to print out. But there's also going to be an Amazon hard copy of the workbook. But in the first month, each week of January, we're going to focus on one part of the book. I'm going to have daily videos, mostly about one chapter, except for a couple days I'll have to do two. And then every Saturday in January, I will do a live Q&A. And I don't get a chance to do that much.
Of 2026.
That's part of what the thinking was, is like, hey, it's always a time where people are thinking, not necessarily resolutions, but like the new year is always a time of contemplation and considering like what you want to do different. So I thought we'd just kind of align with that. And so for people who get the book in the first month, we're going to have a special rate, lower price than any course I've done before for doing that companion course. In the future, it'll just be a recorded thing that people can watch that I hope is of great value too. But in January 2026, we're going to have this live element where people can come and ask their questions.
I think that sounds wonderful. Well, audience, I want to thank you all for joining us today, Todd and I at Elisha Space. Your presence, it's no accident that you're with us today. So take some of the comments we've made, the jewels, the tips, put them in your bag as you go along with your healing journey and utilize them. And if you have some additional tips too, or some things you'd like to share with us, please feel free to put it in the comment section. Share with us. Give us a review because that does help the algorithm as well. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. My hope, my desire when I started this podcast is for you to get to a greater place of wholesomeness and peace. And I hope this episode helped guide you along the way in that direction. Thank you for joining Elisha Space, and take care.